Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Square Feet of Life. I am your host, Johnson Francois, and today I have a very special episode to bring to you. I'm here with my brother, my guest, Aaron Hernandez of AaronVisions. Aaron, what's going on, brother?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm
I'm super
good, bro.
excited and thankful to be here. I appreciate you hitting me up to do this. I'm super excited.
Absolutely, man. We're excited to have you. I know that it's been a busy past couple of weeks for you, but before we even get into that, I want to give you the opportunity to let all listeners know, not just my listeners, but your listeners know exactly who you are and how did Aaron Visions come about?
Woo. That's a that's a very good question. And yeah, it's a long story. So my name is Aaron Hernandez, Aaron Visions. I've been doing Aaron Visions now, taking pictures more seriously for about a little bit over 3 years. Um, And people ask me all the time, like, how did you start? How did you know, get a camera and stuff like that? And it's like a super interesting story. So during COVID, um, excuse me, when COVID started, I was a junior in high school, and it was March, so finished that year off, and you know, I started watching like travel videos. Like I don't know why, and I'm talking about like when you couldn't even leave the house, like the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
I was watching all these travel videos, and I had traveled a little bit to that point, mostly like pretty much, yeah, all in the United States, but I didn't really care for it. I would go like on family trips and stuff like that, and it was cool, but I didn't really like have a urge to travel. But for some reason, that all changed after like watching all these travel videos and these people that would like just record themselves going to all these different places and having all these experiences. So I got a camera. And originally it was to vlog, my experiences and just whatever I was doing to make YouTube videos. And the reason I started Aaron Visions was to just make that money back. I think it was like maybe $700, $800 camera was. And I started Aaron Visions, and I was like, let me just take some pictures and just pay back the camera and then we'll be good from there. But I like quickly figured out how cool of an industry this was and like how many things you could do. Like it's like it's so much more than just shooting and editing. All the people you can meet, all the connections you can make, and just like all the experiences you can have. And one thing led to the next, and to the next, and to the next, and here we are 3 years later. It's crazy.
Nice. From the moment that you started out, I know that you mentioned, it was traveling. It was a traveling video that you watched that pretty much started getting you into photography and things like that. Has there been a specific city or anywhere that you've traveled to so far that that you've just fallen in love with that makes you kind of have a different perspective, especially now that you see things through lenses from your own personal lens? Has there been anywhere that you've been through that just excuse me anywhere that you've been to that makes you appreciate what you do even more?
Yeah, so I went to Colombia. Well, I've gone twice. The first time was in like I think it was August of 2022. The second time was in October of 2023. Um, and Colombia is beautiful and completely different than here. Um, but it's definitely one of those cities that you're in certain parts of the city and you see like how people live is really different. And again, for all like the beautiful places that it has and all the amazing and great times that I had when I was over there, again, you do get to see like another side of the world, and it makes you appreciate what you have even more. And that's one of the things that I try to be like completely like super in tune with is like just being grateful. And everybody that I talk to, I try to like get that point across because I feel like gratitude, if you're able to experience gratitude and to feel gratitude, your life becomes exponentially better in
Yeah,
in all facets.
absolutely. You mentioned the camera that you spent some money on when you first started. What camera was that?
It was a Nikon D3500. I want to say it was like $700, $800. I didn't pay for it. My dad helped me out. Like I was like 18, 17. I think I was 17. Um, and yeah, I literally looked up like best beginner cameras, and it was like probably first on the list or like one of the first ones I saw. And I was like, let's try it. Like, the cool thing was like there was no expectation, there was no pressure when I started shooting. So that's like why it was a little bit different. Like it wasn't like I was like I want to be a photographer, I want to do this, and it wasn't like I wasn't either. But it wasn't. It kind of just happened, and like that's what's so crazy to me. Like I've been able to do a lot in the space, and I feel like it kind of like I don't want to say fell into my lap because I feel like I do work really hard, but like the way that everything happened, it was so like natural and like not forced. Um, it's like it's really cool to me how it all unfolded.
Yeah. Would you recommend that Nikon camera to be the first camera, at least, or at least a camera for beginners who are just starting off in the space?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the quality of the camera isn't anything crazy, but if you want to learn how to use a camera and learn how ISO and aperture and shutter speed and white balance and all that stuff works, that's a perfect place to start. Where like I was shooting on auto, where you don't even have to pick the settings for a while. Um, but you know, the technicalities of it, once you start to understand that, it opens up a completely different world. And I didn't get another camera till I felt like I quote unquote like graduated or felt like I reached the capacity of what I could do with that camera. And rightfully so, because when I did get the next camera that I got, it was when everything started to change. So it's kind of those, I guess you could say, bet on yourself. It was a little bit different because, like I said, like I was super lucky. My dad helped me pay for that next camera as well. You know what I mean? But it did like it was night and day. The quality of the pictures and just like the work I was getting, the prices I was able to charge was like night and day.
Yeah.
When I got a new camera.
Do you remember what was like that first picture or video that made you say to yourself, this is exactly what I want to do full time moving forward?
Um, I'm trying to think because there's like I said, like everything happened so like smoothly. There's a lot of moments that I can think of that I was like, wow, this is crazy how it happened. But I would even say it wasn't necessarily a picture, but I had just made the Aaron Vision shirts. This is I think I want to say October of 2021. 2021 or 2022. My bad.
No,
I don't
you're
know
good.
why. One.
You're good,
Um,
bro.
it was either October 2021 or 2022. Um, and I had just gotten Aaron Vision shirts made. Like literally just got them. I still had them in the car in boxes. Um, and I got invited to these hoop runs, and I didn't. I was like this close to not going. It was at night. It was like out of the way. I wasn't getting paid. I was just asked to go film, but I ended up going, and I went over there. There was a bunch of guys over there, but in particular, it was like Sway Lee and like all his crew, and you know, I had seen him before, but I had never like gotten to talk to him or talk to any of his crew. Um, and after at the end, I was like, "Yo, let me get you a shirt," and I gave him a shirt, and then I wasn't gonna give one to just him, so I ended up giving out maybe like 8, 9 shirts to like his whole crew, his security, his friends, other people that were there. Just because it's kind of weird if I just give him one. Everybody else, I'm like
Right.
no, you know. And maybe like a month later, a couple weeks later, I'm scrolling through IG, and he was wearing the shirt on his story. Like three
What?
different stories, he was wearing the shirt, and I'm like, what the hell, bro? Like this is insane. And my friends started to see it. Um, and I think that was the moment that like not necessarily me started to take it seriously, but people started to take me seriously, right? So people that I went to school with or that knew me from when I was younger and they were like, "Oh, Aaron got a camera, cool. He's starting like a little business." But when they saw Sway Lee give the validation of, this is good work or whatever that him wearing a shirt meant, um they started taking it more seriously. And I remember it wasn't necessarily like his fans looked me up and I got a following from that, but just the people that already knew who I was, it suddenly was like, oh, okay, this is like more serious. And I remember like the day after I sold like 8 shirts, like just
Damn.
because he wore it, God damn, bro, my bad.
You're in
Um,
high demand, brother. You're in high demand.
but I have my ringer off. I don't know why it's going through. Um, Sorry about that, but yeah, so it was like that moment that, and again, it kind of goes to show like you know, him wearing the shirt. And again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm not appreciative, but it doesn't change anything. But in the perception of a lot of people, it gave me some sort of validation. And it just goes to show, like, you have to use things like that to your advantage. Is it Is it fair? No, but you know, if you have some sort of perception, people will take you seriously. And again, whether it's fair or not, you have to be cognizant of that and like use that to your advantage. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
stuff like that makes you appear more successful than you really are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have to look at it and use it to your advantage, and also be able to see that when you see other people hanging around with celebrities or whatever it may be, don't let that be the deciding factor of like, you know, if this person is living the life that they say they are. It's very easy to fake what you got going on.
Right. And how long does it take you to like realize that? Because you mentioned that, it doesn't change anything, but to get that big of a cosign, what how do you kind of self motivate yourself to elevate in that sense, just getting that validation from someone with the likes of Sway Lee?
Well, what I've noticed is like I think the reason that I was able to do a lot of things and get in a lot of really good opportunities was because I do a lot of stuff that I don't have to do, right? Doing stuff that you have to do, when you go to work and you have to be there till 5 and you have to get this done, or you have homework and you have to get it done, or you have to pay this payment. It's not easy, but you do it because you have to get it done. The stuff that you don't have to do, and maybe you'll get something out of it, maybe you won't, and you still do it. That's the stuff that adds up over time and gets you in really good positions. Like I said, I didn't have to go shoot that night, and the outcome would have been different. Who knows how stuff would have played out? There's a lot of situations I can point to that I did things that, at least in hindsight, like, in the near future, I wasn't getting nothing out of it. I was doing it because, one, I love it, it was fun. I love going to shoot, and I still do. You know what I mean? I'm super lucky that I do something that I enjoy. Um, but doing stuff when you don't really see an immediate benefit, you don't get immediate gratification out of it, is harder, than to do stuff that you have to, you
Right.
know. So this when you're able to act on that, I know I have to get this done, and I say this, and I'm still really bad at it. Maybe not in Aaron Vision stuff, but in other parts of my life, there's stuff that I want to do and I don't because I don't have to. You know what I mean? And I wish I was, I'm trying to get better at it,
Yeah.
um, and just have more control over like when I say I want to do something, don't break that promise to myself. Like I'm not gonna if I tell you I'm gonna be here at 12, I'm gonna be here because I made that promise to you.
Right.
But it's really easy to break that promise to yourself because you don't really lose anything. But over time, you really do lose a lot.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of recognizing that as it's happening.
And once again, I want to, thank you for being here today because, I know that you're in high demand. I know that there's a lot of things that you have to do. So it does mean a lot for me to have you on today. And I just wanted to let you know that. But I want to take it back a little bit. You mentioned that you went from your Nikon to the second camera that you got, right? What was that second camera and what was the transition from going from the beginning stage to the next phase of your career?
Yeah, so that second camera that I got, it's called the Sony A7 III, and in my opinion, that Sony Alpha line is in the budget of like 1,500 to like maybe 4 or 5 thousand. That's like the industry standard camera. There is better cameras, but they're way more expensive. And it does a good job of like having high quality photo and high quality video. And that's why a lot of the guys, or a lot of the guys and girls that shoot, use that camera, or something pretty similar. So when I started to see other people's work, and I was like, damn, like, and it's not like it wasn't me putting myself down, my work isn't good, but there's just a certain capacity that a camera has. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter who's shooting. And again, you can still take very good photos without a good camera, but there's definitely a certain point, where just got to get to upgrade. And I remember before I did it, because it is a big purchase. I don't know exactly how much it was. I want to say it was like 1,500 to like $2,000. But don't quote me on it. No, it actually probably was closer to 2,500 with everything because I had to get another lens. Um, but I remember calling other photographers and other videographers and asking them like, "What do you think?" You know what I mean? And what it really came down to is like, do you want to take this serious? Because if you're making that investment, you got to kind of like flip a switch. Um, and yeah, like when I got it, there was obviously an adjustment period of like understanding because it wasn't only just a new camera, but it was a different brand. So fundamentally it was the same, but there's a lot of settings and stuff that were different. How to like change things, it was different buttons, and different features. Um, so there was an adjustment period, but that the more you use the camera, the easier you adjust to it.
Yeah.
But I actually have a funny story about when I did switch the camera. It's funny now. It really wasn't funny back then. But so I was helping out like on this commercial shoot. Um, right before I had already ordered the camera, just hadn't gotten there yet. And I was doing like BTS pictures, and one of the shoot spots for this commercial was like this 4-story Airbnb. It was beautiful. It was in Fort Lauderdale, one of the nicest houses I ever stayed in. And we go and we shoot all day, and they let me stay in the Airbnb that night because we had to come back and shoot the next day. So I stayed in this 4-story Airbnb, like 5 rooms, 6 rooms, 7 bath, whatever. I don't know what it was, but massive, massive Airbnb. I stayed in there by myself that night. They let me stay. And again, like even though I do film, for other people, I love vlogging and making videos of myself. And I did like a whole house tour. And I did, bro, I did a video sleeping in every bed and showering in every shower. So I did a house tour. I literally showered in like all 6 showers, and I slept. Bro, this is real. I would set like an hour alarm or 30-minute alarm. I would wake up, I would put the camera on, and I would walk to the next room and sleep. And then, bro, I did that. Like, I didn't even really sleep good because I did the video.
Right.
So I was super excited I recorded it, super excited to get home. I get home, my new camera's here. I get my camera, unbox it. Matter of fact, film the unboxing as well. And I start shooting with the camera, like just taking pictures, like in this room right here. And, taking pictures just to like see how it worked. And then I format the card, which is formatting is like deleting everything because I was just taking pictures of my room. And that was the card that footage was on.
Yeah.
So completely wiped out all that video, and I was upset for a while. Like I paid like $100 to like try to get some software to get it back. I tried like I was holding on to that footage for like a week, and I was super
Forever.
upset. Thankfully, the photos from that I shot there that I needed to get out to them, I did. So all the stuff like the deliverables I had, I was able to get out. It wasn't like those pictures got deleted. But the stuff that was for me got deleted in that
Gone.
video. I still think about it to this day. It would have been such a good video, man. Oh my God.
That's actually hilarious. But that's a perfect segue into my next question, right? So you finally get the Sony A7 III. And what is your creative process like, or how do you see yourself improving creatively at that moment in time, knowing that okay, we finally got this new camera. Now my limitations have, are I have less limitations placed on me. I could actually do more. Where are you at creatively at that moment?
Yeah, so I would say for me, I was I would say I'm different than a lot of photographers in terms of like how I learned and how I got better. In the beginning, it was watching tutorials and watching videos and trying stuff that way. But for me, I would say like 85% of the way that I got better was by just doing it enough times. Like I can't tell you, and I would say that that's something that I have to improve on is going back and watching the technicalities of it, and watching videos on how to edit better, watching videos on how to shoot in different settings. But for me, like the way that I've learned is either by just doing it enough times and being like, whoa, I put the wrong setting on, but I actually like how this looks, or different photographers telling me, hey, try this, try this. You know what I mean? So I haven't learned much in the way of like sitting down and like doing research and watching videos, but I've learned because I've just taken so many damn pictures and so many damn videos that you have no choice but to get better. you
Right.
know.
They say
Um,
in order to master something, you need to spend 10,000 hours on it or something like that, right? In your opinion, what does it take for you to maybe get to where you are right now in photography? I know for me, for instance, for me to become a better podcaster, in order for me to interview people better, it's important that I continue to talk to people. So, in your profession, what do you feel like is important for one to become better at photography or even videography?
well, there's different components to it, right? Obviously, it's the technical side, and you need to have that. You need to be good at, you got to be able to take good pictures. You got to be able to take good video. You have to be able to put it together and make it look presentable. But to me, more important than all of that is the relationships that you build, and the network that you build and the friendships that you have. And it's not, again, it's one of those things that it's not fair, but it's just the way the world works. There's been rooms that I've been able to get in that was I qualified to get in? Maybe not, but I just happen to know the right person. And that happens at all levels. You know what I mean? I was able to get on your podcast without having to hit you up because I know you.
Hmm.
But that also happens at the level of, you see politicians, my friend owns this company. I'm not going to pass a law to hurt him, right? It happens on the level of, hey, my friend plays for the Heat. Oh, I can get you in for free while people are paying thousands of dollars. So again, it's important to see that and use that to your advantage, right? So for me, it's kind of switched to, like, obviously, like I said, I try to get better and I try to put out the best quality content possible, but I'm also trying to build relationships, and surround myself with people that can put me in positions to succeed. You know what I mean? And the cool thing about it is that it's a two-way street. You know, it helps me to help you, and it's most times mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's so important, super underrated. Um, there's guys I know that are so, 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 so talented, but they don't understand the business side. They don't understand the networking side, the side of like putting yourself out there, or the side of, and this is like sometimes a hard pill to swallow, to do stuff for free. And again, it's like that's a very gray area because it is true. I've definitely done stuff that I should have gotten paid for and I got nothing out of it. But there's also times where I've done stuff that I should have gotten paid and I just happened to meet somebody and that led to this, that led to that. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm so like, if the alternative is me be here at home doing nothing, I'm gonna try to go. You know what I mean? And the more busy you get, I've noticed the harder that becomes. And like internally you start to be like, I don't have to do this for free. And it's true. I'm super blessed that I'm at a point where like I could do the bare minimum of like just getting the stuff I get paid for, to go edit that and chill the rest of the time. But I feel like that's how you stop your growth. You stunt it. So I want to continue to grow and continue to meet people, continue to elevate my network. And I feel like the way to do that is to continue putting myself out there, right? You have to be lucky, right? There's luck involved, but you put yourself in positions to be lucky. Me sitting here watching Netflix will never get me anywhere, right? And the quicker that you realize that, and again, there has to be a balance too. It can't just be all work, work, work. Like I do a lot of fun stuff. I also get to live my life. I was just in Europe for 2 weeks, not working at all. um you know so there's a balance to it, but you pick the balance. Like for me, it might be more work than some. Like my balance might be 70% work, 30% fun. For some people it might be 70% fun, 30% work. And it works, it's whatever works for you. But you have to realize, if you're doing 70% fun, 30% work, you might not be able to live a life that the 70% work, 30% fun people live, right? But it's everybody's got that choice to make.
Yeah. Aaron, how old are you?
I'm 21 right now.
You're really wise for your age, right? How do you stay focused being that young? Because I know with a lot of 20-year-olds in particular, everybody wants to go out, everybody wants to turn up. But what is it that keeps you focused knowing that there's more to this story than where you're at right now?
Well, I just think, again, you live the life that you want to live, but there's also so many factors that you can't control, right? Um, and like growing up, I was like super independent. Like I had my friends, but like for example, like my mom worked until late every day, right? So like from when I was like maybe in like third, fourth grade, I was leaving school and I was coming home and I was alone till like 7, 8 o'clock, right? You know what I mean? So I had a lot of time to myself. So, and I have my friends and I love to hang out with people, but I feel like I'm very independent. And, and I actually had this conversation not that long ago. Like I don't really go out and like ask for advice as much. And I might, but at the end of the day, I always try to do what I think is best. And sometimes that's hurt me. Sometimes it's been what people close to me have told me not to do. And sometimes it's worked out and sometimes it hasn't. But I'm very like, whatever I think is best for me is what I'm gonna do, and that's why I've done things a little bit differently than I would say probably most people my age. And like I said, some stuff has worked out and some stuff hasn't. But one of the things that I've realized, like, you can't live every life. Like, there's a part of me that would have loved to have gone to college and moved away and partied and hung out and done all types of stuff, and I haven't lived that life. But I'd much rather live this life right now, and try to set myself up to be, extremely successful in the future. But you
Yeah.
can't have it all, right? I would love to spend every dollar I have traveling, but if I do that, I might not be able to live this other life. You can't live them all. So you
Right.
have to kind of pick your battles. And that's like
Absolutely.
something that I feel like a lot of people don't realize.
And it's important for you to have realized that early, because a lot of people end up looking back on their lives and are like, damn, I should have done this. I should have done X, Y, and Z instead. And see that a lot of the things that, happen throughout life, they really don't matter. It's just really focusing on the right thing and making sure that you end up getting to your goal. But speaking about goals, you have an infinite love for basketball and sports, it seems like. Can you talk to us about your love for sports and how that influences you creatively in order to, step inside the sports photography world and the videography side of it as well?
Yeah, so I've been watching basketball. I think my first year watching basketball was the year that the Heat won the first title, 2012. So the second title, the first one with LeBron. So naturally, like my first exposure to basketball, in my opinion, was the most entertaining, maybe not the best team ever, but the most entertaining team, in my opinion, of all time. LeBron, D Wade, like that that is in my, maybe I'm biased, but the best duo ever and the most fun on a night to night basis. That every night you're gonna see an alley oop, you're gonna see a crazy dunk, you're gonna see a poster, you're gonna see something crazy. So that was my first exposure. My first 2 years watching basketball, we won the title. You know what I'm saying? So I I started on like the highest level, right? And then obviously LeBron left and we got a little bit worse and whatever. And I grew up, but I still, I was a Heat fan for life. And getting a camera and getting to this space, like that was kind of what I wanted to do in that space. I wanted to work with NBA players. I wanted to grow those connections. And it was never like, I never thought of like becoming friends with NBA players and getting to really know them personally. It was kind of just like, hey, that'd be cool to go and shoot. And that's kind of the reason like why I like Miami Pro so much. So to give you a backstory that I don't even know how many people really know this. So when I was in high school, um, I was on my sophomore year. I was on JV, but for service hours, I would film the varsity games like on an iPad.
Mm.
And we had a kid at our school. He's on the Blazers right now. His name is Tumani Kamara. Like he was just a rookie last year. He's on the Blazers, and he was like one of the best players in the country. And I remember it was our senior night, and while I was recording on the iPad, I was recording on my phone because he was like going crazy, dunking a bunch of stuff, like, and I had like 5, 6 videos, and one of my friends sent all those videos to like Ball is Life, Hoop Diamonds, Baller Visions, over like all those big outlets at the time, and Baller Visions, actually responded back and was like, hey, can you like record a game for me? I'll pay you $50. And so I go and I film the game like off my iPhone. This is like 2019 probably. Um, and I filmed the game and I got paid like $50 and I had never had a job. So I'm like, this is insane. Like this is so cool. And that was originally when like those people started calling me Aaron Visions. But again, like I filmed on an iPhone. So it wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't nothing crazy. And then that summer, I saw that Miami Pro was going on, and I had seen it before, but I never had a reason to go. I lived really far from it. And like at that point in time, like I wasn't going out, like, you know what I mean? I didn't have a job. So if I wanted to go out, I had to ask, hey, can I go here? Can I go there? And it didn't really make sense for me to drive an hour to go watch people play basketball. You know what I mean? As much as I wanted to my mom and my dad, it didn't really make sense. So I reached out to the guy from AaronVisions. His name is Marcel. And I'm like, hey, there's this pro league down here. It's kind of like the Drew League, but of Miami. Like, would you like me to come film it? And he's like, yeah, for sure. And that summer I would go and I would film it. I'm talking about off the iPhone and send it to him. And I think that summer I made maybe like $500, $600. And it might not be a lot, but to me at that time, again, never had a job. Like, this is like super cool to me. And I'm literally going to film NBA players. Like, I would go here for free. And I just happened to get paid. I met all these NBA players. I remember like James Johnson, I got a picture with him, Bam, Derrick Jones, a bunch of NBA guys. But I wouldn't consider myself a cameraman. I was just going and filming. And then that was 2019, and 2 years later, I just happened to get a camera. And naturally, what was the first place I wanted to go? Miami Pro. And this time it was a little bit different because I had a business, and like now it's like in the sense of like, I want to do this for real. I had an actual camera. I started meeting people. Um, and then slowly started to grow these relationships to like where now like there's NBA players that I would consider friends, which is like 15-year-old me would freak out at. 12-year-old me would absolutely like go crazy. You know what I mean? And not just with the players, but just the people surrounding the game. Like for example, Ronnie Taylor and Remy, workouts, two guys that I would consider close friends of mine. And I remember seeing their runs when I first started. And I'm like, man, I hope I get to go there one day and look, year, 2 years later, it's like now, I'm welcome over there and, I become friends with a lot of them. So it's stuff like that that really like when you sit back and you look, it's like, wow, like even though I still want to go and go and go more, I feel like I'm living my dream. Like
Right.
I'm exactly where I wanted to be 2, 3 years ago. And it's really cool. And again, it's not perfect, right? Like, there's definitely stuff that could be better, but I'm definitely like living my dream, and I'm super blessed.
And it's an opportunity that you created off of your humility, right? Just reaching out to Ball's Life and being like, "Hey, I'm headed down to Miami Pro. Can I film for you guys with just an iPhone?" And you say that it was just $500-$600, but I look at that and I'm like, "Yo, he created an opportunity for himself where he got into the field that he wanted to be in with the minimal amount of tools." In that sense, and still came out of it with something that he wasn't expecting. And some of it was monetary, but a lot of it was the relationships that you ended up building to put you are where you are today.
For sure. Yeah, it's crazy. Like cause I have these conversations with people sometimes. Like I said, I love to just sit down and talk for hours. Like I do that at the club. I like in the worst situation, I love to just sit and just talk. Like I have friends that we just go drive and just talk,
Right.
and it's like it's really cool that like, like I want to make it very clear. Like I'm not like balling. I don't have like a lot of money. I don't make crazy money doing this. I think I can and I think I will, you know. But right now it's definitely still like in that beginning stage. But what I really enjoy about what I've been able to do is like I've had like very, very cool experiences. Like there's stuff that I've done that you can't buy. Like you just have to be there. You know what I mean? Like there's, just different situations I've been in that like it just has to happen. You know what I mean? And like I value that more than having a lot of money and whatever. Even though I do want to make a lot of money,
Of course.
I don't want to want to make it very clear, but it still is very cool to have these experiences that, are priceless, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. This past season, you had a unique opportunity to work with, or I saw you working courtside at some of the Miami Heat games. Tell us what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, so that's another one of those stories that it's like one thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next. So let's take it back to 2022. There's a guy down here. His name is Made in Philly, and he used to do these basketball tournaments at Unknown. I don't know if you're familiar with Unknown down in
Yeah, LeBron
Wynwood,
store.
the store.
Yeah.
Yeah, LeBron store. Yeah. So they have a court outside, and they would do these little basketball tournaments every like month or two. And again, I would just go just to show up. And I think it was either that day or the other tournament that they had, but I remember I paid $40 in parking. You know what I mean? And I didn't go over there getting paid. I just went to go network, go meet people, go take pictures, just to show face, right? Um, and I met a guy named Tommy. Tommy used to sell these things called cool heads, and they're like do-rags, but they have like a towel fiber on the inside. So
Oh,
you have your
nice.
head covered, it has like the back of your neck covered, and it has a towel. So when you're sweating, you can wipe your face.
Mm-hmm.
And I started talking to Tommy. He asked me to take some pictures for him, and send them over of people wearing his product. And fast forward, a year and a half later, we kept. I mean, we wouldn't talk all the time, but we kept in touch. We kept it cordial. Friendly. Sometimes we'd talk in DMs or whatever. And fast forward a year and a half later, he has an outlet called Remix Sports Media, and went over to his house to kind of chop it up and see, how we can work together. And he was credentialed for the Heat, and I probably went to maybe 15 Heat games this year, fully credentialed, all access, um, because of this relationship that I had made 2 years prior. So that's what I'm
Nice.
saying. Like one thing leads to the next, to the next, to the next, and like I said, like the Heat, like filming for the Heat was like my pinnacle when I started. Obviously now there's other stuff that I want to do because as you um achieve things, you want to go higher and higher. But if you would have asked me like what the dream was when I started, it was like, yeah, I would love to shoot for the Heat and shoot a Heat game, and I got to do that like multiple times. You know what
Oh.
I mean? I got to go in the press conference room. I didn't, but I could have asked a question, and I kind of regret it. And hopefully next year, I'll ask a question,
Well, what's
in
the
the
question?
press conference room. Oh no, no,
Ask.
I just mean I don't know
Mhm.
what it would be, but in the press conference room to Coach
Got it.
Spoelstra, I had Spoelstra, I had Tatum, Bam, Jalen Brown. I could have asked, and I didn't, and that's one thing that I definitely am gonna do next year.
While we're on the topic, who's your favorite player right now?
Um, I want to say Kyrie, but it's really LeBron. I'm
Okay.
like the biggest LeBron fan, like hands down. I was a little upset when he left Miami, but I was just a kid. I forgive him. I love
How'd you feel
LeBron. That
watching the Olympics?
So I actually didn't really get to watch it. The last two games I was on a cruise. So
Oh, you were
I saw the
traveling.
highlights and stuff, but I didn't really get to watch the game. I know it's crazy. And
Yeah.
I can't wait till they make some sort of 30 for 30 documentary about that because I
Oh,
know
it's
they
gonna
got all
be
the footage. It's gonna be crazy.
it's gonna be
But I
amazing.
love like that like team right there is like it's like it's so cool to see like them all come together. All the haters coming together and supporting. All the LeBron haters, all the Curry haters coming together and supporting the team. But yeah, I mean, I wish I could have watched those games. I heard they were insane.
Yeah.
But even if I do sit down and watch the whole game right now, knowing the outcome, it won't hit the same
Yeah.
as watching it
Yeah.
live. Um,
It's funny you say that because I missed the Serbia game, but I did catch the gold medal game versus France, and I've been considering whether I want to actually go back and watch the Serbia game. But you're exactly right. When you know the outcome, it's kind of
yeah,
just hard to like sit there and then just hope for something to happen when you already know what the result is going to be.
yeah. Now the one exception to that I will give is I remember the night that Kobe dropped 60, I had the game recorded on the DVD,
Mm-hmm.
but I had school the next day, so I didn't stay up and watch
Yeah.
it. And I remember waking up the next day and going on Instagram and seeing that he dropped 60, and I thought it was a typo. And I'm like all day at school. I don't know if I watched the highlights or I mean I don't know if I saw the highlight. I definitely didn't look them up, but maybe I
Mm-hmm.
saw a highlight or two. And I remember coming back from school and sitting there and watching that game, and I knew what was gonna happen, but it's still that game. That was the craziest game I ever seen.
You're talking about
And
the
yeah,
game where Kobe dropped 60, his
the
final
last
game,
game,
right?
the last game.
It's
Yeah,
funny you mentioned 30 for 30s because I know for sure that that game will be a 30 for 30 because I actually watched that game and it was a tough decision because that was also the game where, or excuse me, that
the
was also the
Warriors.
night, yeah, exactly. The Warriors, went 73 and 9. And it was like, oh, damn, like, what are you going to watch? Are you going to watch the Warriors game or are you going to watch Kobe? And obviously the whole world just decided to watch Kobe. But at the same time, a few miles up north, California, the Warriors are making NBA history. And while
Yeah.
we're still on basketball too, you mentioned the Miami Heat being the pinnacle for you in where you're at today, but you also work with a lot of young athletes too, especially on the high school level who want to make it to the NBA someday. And these kids are just getting bigger, faster, stronger every single year. Is there a high school player right now that stands out to you that maybe people should know about?
I'm gonna give you three guys. The first one being Sean Abayev. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right. He's at Calvary right now, and right now he's blowing up. But I met him when he was a freshman. He was still cooking, and you could tell he was gonna be really good. But like now, it's like it's obvious he's gonna be that guy. He's lefty, like 6'8", 6'9", but like built, can jump, can shoot everything you need. He's got it, and he's got offers from like everybody. Now, these two boys, these are my guys. I film for them all the time. Mason and Miles Fuentes, they're at Riviera right now. They've been the last couple of days in Atlanta with overtime doing like a tryout for the overtime elite league.
Nice.
And I seen they've been blowing up because they've been posting a bunch of clips of them. But to remember the name, those two guys, I've seen it. Like they live, breathe, they live the grind. Um, they go to school in Kendall. I don't know how familiar you are with Miami. They go to school in
Hmm.
Kendall. They live in Boca,
That's a
and they have
drive in
5 a.m.
itself.
practice. They have 5 a.m. practice. And I've done it before because I filmed for them. Wake up at 3 a.m., get in the car, drive an hour, do practice, go to school all day. After school, they got the strength and conditioning. Get home at like 6, 7 o'clock. And while that's not every day, that's like multiple times a week during basketball season. So those guys are going to be really successful. Those are like my little brothers. Like those are my guys. They're
Yeah.
really good. And the dad Joe, that's my guy too. I want to be like him when I'm a father. Literally, will do take a bullet. Well, obviously take a bullet for his kids, but whatever they need, like he does it. And like I mean, I don't know how much he knows of that, but like every time I'm around him and I see how he is, not only with his kids, but he has a basketball program. So with all the kids that come through his program, even with me, I'm not his son. You know what I mean? The way he treats people, the way he's always available and like down to give advice to help. He's definitely someone that I would say like I look up to, and I'm like, well, when I'm a dad, when I'm older, and yeah, I want to be like him.
Right.
And he's definitely a big reason why his kids are in a position, and obviously they still have to do the work themselves, but they're in a position where like they have every resource they need to get to where they want to go. And
Yeah.
they're doing it. Like I said, like right now a lot of people don't know those names, but give it a year or two, and maybe 2, 3 years, that's gonna be a some names that everybody knows.
Nice.
You know.
I want to pivot a little bit from basketball. I know that, there's a lot of different photography and videography that you do from graduation photos, but one, I guess, type of photography that you do that I want to touch on a little bit is modeling, working with models and things of that nature. What's that been like for you, especially for the fact that it's not sports related?
Yeah, so that's been something that's been more like new, that it's been more recent. And it's definitely living in Miami, like that's a space that I want to get into. There's so many like models that live over here, and there's like that's such a one of probably the bigger industries in Miami. But it's like a completely different thing. And the way I look at it is like each industry you start at zero, right? So while in basketball, my name might be known, I would say like in football, I'm known a little bit, but definitely not as much. In modeling, I'm all the way at the bottom, and rightfully so, because if you want to do pictures of your house and do real estate photos, you're gonna call a real estate photographer. You're not gonna call a basketball photographer, and same thing goes with everything, right? So a girl that wants to take pictures of herself modeling is not gonna call a basketball photographer, and it's completely understandable, right? So getting into these different industries, it's all kind of like by a situational, or this person needs somebody, and they just know and that's how you kind of break into the industry, unless you go all out and kind of start from zero and go to all these events and start shooting for free and stuff like that. um but it's a completely different game. It's like for me, and it's almost in a way sometimes uncomfortable for me, because I'm not the type to like direct and tell you, hey, do this, do that, move here, look here. That's like so out of the box for me. Like, for basketball, it's like, hey, play the game. I'm gonna get these shots. But if you really look at it, it's probably easier because you can take as many tries as you want. You're not in a rush. You can tell them, hey, do this, do that. But for me, it's like it's harder. Um, to and again, I've worked with great models that know how to pose, which makes my job a lot easier. So I don't have to be, explaining and trying to help them pose. But yeah, it's a completely different game in the game.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
How has that made you a better photographer?
I think it's just good to do different things, and you know what I mean. Like the way that you edit a picture of a model is not the same as you would edit a basketball photo.
Mm,
So different techniques, like different styles. Like in that, you might do a heavier edit. Like more colorful than a basketball photo. And then also it adds to the resume. Like I don't want someone to ask me, hey, have you done these photos? And I'm like, oh, I haven't. Like, hey, look, I've done modeling, I've done football, I've done basketball, I've done real estate, I've done cars, I've done headshots, whatever it may be. So I think it's important to try new things, But 90% of the people that text me and DM me about taking pictures is for basketball. It's not
mm,
for modeling. So
nice.
it's trying to find that balance of like I want to do new things, but then also how much effort are you putting towards that and what are you cutting off to try to get into this other industry? And it's like, is it worth it for you? Is it not? It depends on the person.
Do you feel like so far working with models has been worth it for you? Something that you plan on continuing moving forward with?
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I said, it's a different vibe. And it is a lot of fun. However, stuff like that, it's like one of those things that like do I have the time to go to all these shows and just try to find clientele right now? It's probably not the best time for me, but definitely any opportunity that I see that I'm available, I'm definitely open to doing it. And again, probably something like Swim Week when that comes up, I'll probably be at a show at a runway, something like that,
Yeah.
or Fashion Week, something like that.
You mentioned that with models knowing how to pose, it makes your job a little bit easier. From transitioning from sports into modeling, how do you create that level of comfortability and trust, especially if it's a model that maybe you are working with for your first time?
Yeah, so that's normally what it's been. A lot of the girls that I've worked with, this is the first time, generally, honestly, probably first time even meeting them. So I think that just starts from the jump, right? Like, how is our conversations on the way to the shoot? How am I when I introduce myself? How do I come off, right? And I would like to say that I'm very like easygoing, and I'm like I would say I'm easy to talk to. So thankfully, I've never had an issue, where these girls are comfortable with me to shoot, because it is again, it's one of those things that there's a very like gray line of like, what are we doing? Like, how what are we shooting? And again, every girl's different. Some girls are more comfortable, being open, and some of them are not. So it's like you have to kind of feel that out leading up to the shoot, not when you're already there. It's like
Yeah.
from the first beginning conversations.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's very intimate, and you do want
Yeah,
to create that level of comfortability there. So
for
we got
sure.
sports, we got modeling. I've seen you do graduation photos as well. Is there any niche that you're looking to dive into as well, or is it going to be just going back to sports here after this?
I would love to get into like the concert side, but like I said, it's starting from zero, right? So I don't know a lot of people in that industry.
Hmm.
You know, I've wanted to do Rolling Loud probably for the last like 2, 3 years, but again, I just don't have those connections, right? So until I build that up, I probably won't be doing a lot of concerts. I'll give you another story about a concert actually. So this is back in 2021, like way back when I first started to make money from AaronVisions. Um, I went to Chicago. I have a friend that lives in Chicago, and I wanted to go out there and just see a new city. I'd never been there before, and I kind of wanted to find a reason to go, right? Like I wanted to go, but like let's like have some sort of reason. And Don Tolliver was performing in Chicago. I was like, okay, boom, that's a reason. Let's go. Let's go to the concert. You know what I mean? And I will be there for a couple days hanging out, whatever. So that was actually my first concert I ever been to. I like Don Toliver, but I didn't know his song. Like I didn't know all his songs. But I remember leading up to the concert, that was like pretty much all I was listening to because I didn't want to go to the concert and not know the songs. So the concert happens, it goes great. And after, for some reason, I wanted to get a shirt. like one of the concert, they sell a lot of merch, and I was like dead last in line, like literally dead last, and it was like maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hour wait. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, what are you thinking of getting?" And we started talking a little bit. And he had a credential on, so I knew he was working. And I asked him, like, "Hey, like, do you work for the venue or do you work for Don's team?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm Don's best friend. I'm his tour manager." And like like in the back of my head, I'm like, "Oh shit, like this is crazy." And I'm like, "Hey, like, I saw you guys are gonna be in Miami in a couple weeks. I'm a photographer. I would love to like shoot the show." And he gives me his email. I reached out to him. Then the week of the show was on a Friday, I think. Reached out to him again. He got me on the media list, and I shot the show when it was in Miami. So the first two
Ooh.
concerts I ever went to was the same concert, and one of the times I shot it. Like I got to take pictures in the concert. So it was crazy. You know what I mean? So again, stuff like that like, you take a chance, you ask somebody a question and you know,
There's one thing that I notice has been a commonality with you and celebrities, and it's shirts. I don't know what it is, but with Sway Lee, it was the Aaron Visions shirts. It got you put
yeah,
on, and then after that, now you're
for
in line with
sure.
Don Tolliver trying to get some merch, and that just happens. It's a blessing at that point. You know what I mean?
For sure. No, 100%. And that's something that like specifically like with the Air Vision shirts that I've loved and I honestly haven't really promoted them in the last maybe year and a half, 2 years. I still have a couple. Actually, I'm running low actually. I probably need to get another batch, but
Hmm.
um, you know, it's such an easy way to like to build. And the shirts are like, they're not I think they're nice, but they're not like crazy quality. I think it came out to like $6 a unit. So if it was a $30 shirt, I'd probably be a little bit more hesitant giving them out like that. But with stuff like that, it's cool to, hey, nice to meet you here. Take a shirt. My Instagram's on the back. Obviously Aaron Visions on the front. Um, and that's just a way to build a relationship. There was another guy. His name's Trey Parker, and he was like really popular. I mean, he's still pretty popular. But he like, and when he was in high school, he was like one of the biggest high school guys. And I gave him a shirt at an event down here. And a couple days later, I see on Bleacher Report, there's a video of him doing like a through the legs dunk in the shirt. You know what I mean? That video
Sheesh.
got like 100, 200,000 views. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not getting tagged from that, but the people that I know are seeing that. And again, it's kind of
Hmm.
giving you that validation of like, damn, good stuff. Um, but yeah, the shirt, I would give that advice to anybody. Like, you know, it's an easy way to connect with somebody. Here, take a shirt. Um, and you never know what that could lead to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking about
So
Don, how was the concert? I mean, for yourself, you mentioned that was the first two concerts that you've ever been to. Just going at it, excuse me, to going to the concert from the fan perspective, what was that concert like for you?
it was great. Like I loved it. And all those songs hit differently when I listen to them now because it brings me back to that day and that
Mm,
concert. And not just like specifically that concert, but like just I was just in a great mood like that whole trip. You know what I mean? That was like the first trip I took after like with my own money. You know what
right.
I mean? I was like 18. Was I 18? I was either 17 or 18. But that was like the first trip I took, with my own money. And it was kind of like my first like kind of celebration of like, you were able to do this on your own. So like just the whole vibes like that whole week was just great. And that probably even enhanced the concert experience even more. But
Did
regardless, it was a great concert.
did you get to meet Don Tolliver?
No, I didn't. I mean, I got really close to him, like,
Hmm.
but I never got to talk to him or anything. Yeah, it was just like shoot and then just left. But,
Is
you know,
Yeah. Is there artists that you would want to work with?
Drake, love Drake. That's probably my favorite artist. Drake, Lil Uzi, um, who else? I mean, I love like Kodak, Lil Baby, Young Boy, Future. I mean, there's a bunch of artists that I listen to. But I would say like the one is definitely Drake.
Dope.
That's what I say. The two people I really want to shoot, Drake and LeBron. But I feel like my hands would shake. Like I wouldn't be able to take a good picture. My hands would be shaking. But those are the two guys that I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to shoot at some point.
That'd be dope. To be honest with you, with the work that you've been putting in so far, I honestly think that you could make that happen.
I hope so, man. That's the goal. That would be great.
Yeah. You
So
might also want to make your way to Rolling Loud because I know that this year is their 10-year anniversary or something like that.
yeah.
I was actually, ironically, I was reading this earlier, and a lot of the artists that you mentioned, aside from Drake, and I'm not sure if I saw YoungBoy on there, but almost all of the artists that you mentioned will be performing there. So it might be it's something you want to look into.
Yeah, the tickets actually, the pre-sale actually was this morning. I wanna get tickets, but it's also the day after my birthday, and I don't know if I'm gonna be out of. I want to travel. Like I didn't do it last year, but the goal for me personally, like I said, I really like traveling. I was in a different country when I turned 18. No, 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 20. But the goal from now on would be to be in a different country each birthday for like the rest of my life. That's
Nice.
the goal I have. I don't know, we'll get there, but hopefully I'll be able to go to Costa Rica for my birthday this year. That would be nice.
And you
But
could take some
we'll
nice
see. We
shots out
got
there too.
Yeah, yeah. And that's my thing too. Like the filming, like it's a part of me. Like I bring my camera everywhere. Like every time I travel, I have to pay an extra $60 because I have to buy an extra bag because I have my camera bag that I can't fit anything else in, and I have my clothes. So
Yeah.
like I live. Like that's probably one of the main reasons why I've been able to have success is because I really like love what I do, and I
Yeah.
don't love all of it, right? Like going home after shooting all day and having to edit, and I have to film the next morning, and I not getting to sleep the full 8 hours is not always fun,
Yeah.
but I wanted to be here, right? So how can I be like I want to make money and get booked a lot, and then when I do get booked a lot, complain? It's like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
You're crazy, So it's
I
not all fun, but
yeah.
there is definitely like a lot of good things that come with it.
That makes me think about a meme that I've been seeing going around lately, and I hope that I'm quoting it correctly. But I think the meme said something to the lines of, I can't complain about how much I have on my plate when the goal was to eat. And so to hear you say that, that makes me think about that meme a lot. Um, Earlier, you mentioned how, you know, there has to be a perfect mix of work life balance in order for you to keep elevating yourself and achieving the goals that you forward for yourself. Um, when you, I guess, travel and things like that, I could imagine that the goal is to rest. Or sometimes, even when you go out, even though you're a business person, your mind may be thinking, network with this person and network with that person and things like that. But how do you find that perfect work life balance, especially when, there's people who know you're a photographer and they might be passing you their phone, like, hey, Aaron, can you take a picture of me and things like that? I guess, what are some of your biggest pet peeves of you know, of just being a photographer and working in this industry.
Well, going to the pet peeves, I actually discovered one while I was in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I was with my family and, we're all taking pictures of each other on the camera. And I'll take some great pictures and we'll be at the same place. And somehow the picture that they take of me is always like off, bro. And
Oh,
I'm like, God damn.
I could imagine that. I
They're
already
because
know.
I'm actually before I was on the podcast, I was editing because I mean I probably took on this trip I probably took like 3,000 4,000 pictures,
Yeah.
and I've literally been going through it for the last couple days, um, and we'll be in the same exact spot, same camera, but somehow the
It
pictures
doesn't
that
come out
they
as
take
great.
of me are not the same. I'm like, God damn.
Well, maybe
And
that's
then
a
going
that's a
back,
testimony to the work that you do. Like maybe you've just elevated so like high to the point where it's like no one could do what you do in that sense. And not to say that in like a bad way, but that's like a good way of the work that you've put in.
well, I would say more than that. It's just like the repetition. Like, I don't think I have any special gift or any special eye different than
Mm-hmm.
anybody. I've just taken so many damn pictures that you
Yeah.
figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at Joe Rogan, who's arguably the top of the podcast game,
Mm-hmm.
is he that much better than anybody else? Or has he just done it so many times that you just get comfortable and you get better? You know what I
Yep.
mean? I
Yep.
think that's more what it is. Obviously, there's some people that are just born with special talents, but a lot of it comes, you catch up, right, with the amount of effort that you put in. And then going back to the other thing that you mentioned about the work life balance, um, there's no like work life. Oh, well, you have to make it, right? There isn't though. There's no like clock out. I can be working at 4 in the morning. I can be working at 9 in the morning. I can be working right now. There's never like a, okay, you're done. Like there's always, for the last literally 3 years, there's always been something to do. Always. So it's like you have to pick your battles, right? Like at what point are you like, I'm done for the day? At what point are you like, I'm not answering this phone call right now? And knowing that you might miss out on an opportunity, right? Like me going to Europe for 2 weeks, who knows how much money I missed out on, how many relationships I could have built in places that I didn't go. But that's just part of life, right? You can't work the whole time. But it is difficult, and I feel like I'm still figuring it out of like there's never a time that like you're done, right? When you have a job and you clock out, you go home, you're good.
Hmm.
There's always something to do, and there's always somebody that might call. And that's actually one of the things that I love about the cruise. And this one wasn't so much like that, but the first cruise I went on, I didn't have service, and I wasn't worried about my phone. I wasn't worried about getting a text. Everybody that knew, or everybody that might need to contact me, knew I wasn't available. So there was no part of me that was worried about, oh my God, I need to do this, I need to do that, for like 2 days or 3 days, 4 days, whatever it was. But it felt really good. This cruise was a little different because I was shooting a lot of time. I was with like a bunch of family, so there was a lot of like checking the phone. Even though I didn't have service, we could text on the cruise app. Um, but yeah, it's like one of those things that I'm still trying to figure out. And again, I feel like it's not a set thing. It's like it changes, right? Maybe in a couple years, I'll be more have fun than work, or maybe I'll be the opposite, or you know what I mean? Um, the thing is like it's very important to know that you can pivot at any time. So just because I've been doing something a certain way, if I think that this other way is gonna be better, like do it the other way. Don't stick to what you've been doing because, you know, like you just whatever you think works is what you gotta do.
Right.
And it's one of those things that like I'm constantly trying to figure out, like, because there's no blueprint. There's no like way to, you kind of got to figure it out as you go. The way to
Mhm.
learn is one, messing up, which sucks, or two, trying to figure it out before you mess up, and three, trying to learn from people that have done it before you are at a higher level than you are. But going back to what I said, that like there's so many factors, I might do what this photographer did to become extremely successful, and it might not work for me because there's just so many factors. So the thing is, like, you can't take stuff too seriously because there's no right or wrong answer. Like something might happen to you, you might think it's a great thing, and it ends up being terrible. Something terrible might happen, and it ends up being a great thing. So it's just important to be able to pivot. And I feel like most people don't understand that, and they get so caught up in like things going wrong. And it's like, one, you gotta look at it differently and being grateful. Again, it fits into everything. Um, and two, you know what I mean? You got to just be able to go, because let's say something bad did happen, you're only hurting yourself by like getting stuck in that moment and getting stagnant instead of continuing to try to improve and try to move on, you know?
Absolutely. Aaron, what's the end goal?
I have no idea. I like the end goal would be for me to be able to travel the world and have a camera crew follow me.
Hmm.
And how realistic, well, I don't want to say it's not realistic, but it's not in the foreseeable future, right? A lot of things have to happen for me to get to that point. But that's the goal. I would love to be able to travel and just have people follow me around with cameras, or me film and send footage to people to edit, and just travel the world, and not just necessarily travel, but just do stuff. Go skydiving, make a video out of it. Go fishing, make a video out of it. Go climb a mountain, make a video out of it. Like that is like the dream for me.
Hmm.
But regarding Aaron Visions, um I didn't really touch on it much on the podcast, but like there's other stuff that I do and other stuff that I've been working on outside of Aaron Visions, because while Aaron Visions is my baby, and that's how I got to where I'm at, and that is what started everything. I don't think Aaron Visions will ever make me rich. And I mean like really rich. You can make good money, but I mean like really rich, right? So it's like, what can I do with the resources that I have, with the people that I've met, with the stuff that I've learned doing Aaron Visions? How can I make a lot of money with that? And obviously, the way to make a lot of money is delegation, right? So is it a media company, right? Do I turn Aaron Visions, or make a separate company where I have a lot of people working for me, and it pivots into something else? Um, do I want to use the relationships that I have and try to start an agency, right? Where I represent people? Do I want to start a marketing company? Like, what is it that I want to pivot to that can, one is going to be a lot more serious than AaronVisions was like starting off. But what can I do to make a lot of money and set myself up? Um, and that's kind of what I'm figuring out. And I'm super blessed because I feel like I have so many options, so many ways I can go. And it's a blessing and a curse. It's good because, I can go this way, I can go that way. And also it's like I'm very bad at like sticking to one thing and doing it. I always try to do a million things, and sometimes it comes back to bite me. Um, and I feel like that's where I'm at right now, trying to figure out like where what is gonna make me really rich.
Yeah.
You know,
And for anybody starting out in photography and videography, what advice would you give to them?
just go out, like just shoot everything. Um, in the beginning, you're not gonna get paid, or maybe there will be some good people that pay you. Um, but you have no leverage, and leverage is the name of the game. So I can't come to you and ask you, hey, can I come to your event and then charge you? But the second that you
Mm,
reach out to me, I have leverage. And the more that you continue to grow, the more leverage that you have, the more you can charge, the more on your terms everything can be. Because if you don't have leverage, the leverage is used against you. I can't walk into the Apple store and be like, hey, I only want to pay $1,000 for the phone instead of 2,000. I'm be like, who are you?
yeah.
But if I'm Marquez Brownlee and I review iPhones and I have an influence on people, they're gonna send me every product they make, you know.
Mhm.
So it's like, how can you get in a position of leverage? And it sounds like bad. It's, you know what I mean, when you say it, but it's not. It's like it's part of life. And again, it's one of those things that, like if you're not using it, it's gonna be used against you. So you
Yeah.
might as well take advantage of it. You know.
I'm trying to be conscious of the time because I know your schedule. But really fast before we, start wrapping this up a little bit, what would you say has been your favorite camera to work with?
The camera I have right now, probably I've worked with other cameras, but like very briefly. Most of the stuff I've done has been all with my own equipment. And this camera right here, I actually got because my other one broke. And it broke in a very, very bad time. It was literally 10 seconds left in the state championship game. The team I was recording was
Oh,
about to win. And I literally didn't get none of the recording of the state championship. Thankfully, they wasn't my fault. Like, you know what I mean? They're not upset with me because hey, there's nothing I could do, but it was very like probably the most unfortunate timing that it possibly could have been. But that's life. And when it happened, I was upset. Not only because it broke, not only because I missed a moment, but because these cameras are so damn expensive.
yeah.
And it was a time where like I really did not have the money to go and buy a new camera, but I didn't have another choice. And the camera that I'm talking about is the one I have now, the A7 IV. I had the A7 III. So it's just a newer generation of the same camera. And at first I didn't think it was gonna be a big difference. But the more I use it, the more I see it, like it's actually a big difference. And like going back to what I was saying, in a way, I was upset that it happened, but now I probably couldn't be happier that this happened because this camera's so much better,
That's dope.
and I wouldn't have gotten it if it hadn't broken.
Yeah. Is there a dream camera that you wish to have after this camera, or is this the last one?
Nah, I mean, there's always gonna be new cameras coming out. It really just comes down to budget, right? Like, I would love to buy a $50,000 camera,
Mm-hmm.
but realistically, it's like that's not
Yeah.
unless things change. But there's a camera called a camera called this. It's a Sony again. Sony FX30 is really good, but it's more on the video side. And that's a beast, but it's super expensive. But with this camera, like there's I can pretty much do everything now. What you can switch up more to give it kind of a different feel is the lenses, right? So even with the same camera, you can use a lot of different lenses and give it a different feel with each one. And that's probably more economical than going and buying a whole new camera.
Yeah.
Now, what I did wish I had was a second camera because I have two, but the other one's broken. So I could have, like, for example, like a shorter lens and a longer lens. So sometimes I do miss out on shots because you kind of have to pick one. But other than that, I mean, that this camera right now, I've had it for maybe like 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 5 months. So and it's been great. So, you know, the camera's good. Um, and yeah, see where it takes me.
And for those interested, for the photographers and videographers listening, do you have a lens that you would recommend that you would consider a good all around lens? Or maybe a good two, three lenses for different situations?
So I only have three lenses. I have my 50 millimeter, which is what I use for most situations. That's a really good lens. I have a 7180 Tamron, which is also a great lens if you're shooting sports and you can't be that close. That's more of like a zoom in lens that you can be farther away. And then I also have a 28 to 75, but it's a kit lens, and that's not good. I have it, but I wish I had the other one, um, which is a 28 to 70, 2.8, either, or it's probably, I think it's a G Master. That lens is really good. I don't have it. I would love to have it. And that's perfect because you can be wide and you can also zoom in. So it's kind of that perfect middle um, in one lens without losing the aperture of it going too high and making the pictures dark. Um,
Nice.
so that would probably be the next lens I want to get, but I don't have it.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah,
get
so
you that lens, brother. We'll get you that
yeah,
lens.
hopefully soon, soon. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, you know what I mean? There's definitely a bunch of stuff that I would love to do and want to do, and like I feel like part of it is just being patient. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
all I can control is like what I do, right? And again, it's like those little decisions that in the moment don't make an impact, but down the line do. But
Hmm.
I've realized recently is like all the decisions you make, like they don't affect you right now. They affect you so far down the line that like you don't
Hell
even
yeah, they
realize it.
do.
And then like in the same way, for you to make changes, you need to like it takes so long.
Hmm.
So you got to start like in the moment right now,
Yeah.
you know? So, but I feel like I work hard enough and I work really hard to not be successful. And that's what kind of keeps me like not worried when I'm like, damn, I gotta pay my car this week. It's
Hmm.
looking rough, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I want to do this, but this isn't coming through. But yeah, I feel like you just gotta be patient and just like make sure you stick to like what you think, and let it play out.
Dope, dope. Aaron, I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast today, brother. Thank you so much for your insight. I hope that, your listeners and my listeners alike learned more about who Aaron Hernandez is the person, and I look forward to all of your success coming towards you.
No, I appreciate you and thank you for having me again. I appreciate you reaching out and I'm gonna be tuned in whenever you drop an episode. And I can't wait to see how this comes out and, going
A-
forward. So
Absolutely,
I
brother.
appreciate you.
Before you get out of here, where can the people find you at?
At Aaron Visions on Instagram, pretty much at Aaron Visions everywhere on YouTube, on TikTok, at Aaron.Hernandez with three Z's on Instagram. That's my personal account if you want to see like what I kind of do. Um, And I didn't really mention this. I co-own at Hoops on Instagram, at HOOPS on Instagram, co-own that. So I'm over there a little bit. Um, so yeah. And if you're in Miami, hit me up. Let me know what's up.
Hell yeah, we'll do. Aaron, thank you so much, brother, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Aaron, we'll speak to you soon, bro.
Sure, appreciate you. Have a good one.
You too, brother.
Hell yeah.